Good evening, my friends. Today, I'm going to share again from 2nd Corinthians chapter 12. And I've just been thinking about this because, I mean, I think it's kind of funny the way that I've been thinking about this now. And I'm just going to read it real quick and let's talk about this thorn in the flesh. And Paul, he's explaining that he knew a man, talking about himself, that was caught up to the third heaven and received great revelation. And he says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure." And as I considered this, I can't help but think, like, what position was Paul in that he actually needed an additional thorn in the flesh to keep him humble? Like, to me, as I process this in my mind, like, isn't the flesh in itself enough of a thorn? You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't the flesh the thorn in our flesh? You know what I mean? Like, how do we need an additional thorn actually in the thorn of our flesh? Because our flesh is contrary to God. It's at enmity with God. It's you know, it's contrary to the spirit, and it's our number one enemy is the flesh. So the fact that Paul needed something beyond that to humble him, like, what more do you what else do you need to be humble? You know what I'm saying? Like he must have received something so beyond to actually, like, not be humbled by the estate of his flesh and the contradiction within himself. I'm trying to figure out um where he was at, because you know I mean, what's not how is being in this flesh not humbling enough? I mean, because even if you're exalted and you see that and you see God, or you see the heavens, whatever that, and then you still have to come down to this earth and live in this fleshly body, which is desiring all the things it desires. And I wonder if Paul had just successfully crucified his flesh to a point where he was not, um, he wasn't driven by his flesh at all. You know what I mean? It's almost as if he had mastered his flesh to the point where that wasn't a challenge enough anymore to humble him, to keep him with his eyes on the Lord and off of himself. That there was this additional thorn, this additional messenger of Satan to keep him humble. And I just wanted to share that today because I just think it's interesting. You know, don't, I don't know that any of us need any more of a thorn in our flesh than the flesh itself. You know what I mean? Like, this body of death that we live in is humbling. It should be humbling enough to keep you in the right position with God. If you really understand how contrary your flesh is, how you have to die every day to yourself, and you cannot do what you will, but you have to walk in obedience to the Spirit. If you know yourself, if you know in me and my flesh dwells no good thing, then that should keep you humble. That should keep you humble enough to see that you have to die to yourself in order to walk in the Spirit. I don't think anybody should be asking for an additional thorn in the flesh. I think first and foremost, you need to understand how big of a thorn your flesh is in itself. And then, if somehow you get to be like Paul and you've mastered the flesh, and then you're exalted to this extraordinary revelation, then maybe you can ask for that additional thorn, which I don't think you have to ask for it. The Lord will send it to keep you humble. But I don't know if we'll experience that. Um, and maybe hopefully we do. Hopefully we do overcome our flesh the way that Paul had overcome his flesh. And we are given such great revelations that we need this messenger of Satan to torment us. Well, not torment us, but to keep us humble. Because that's what it's all about, being humble. And the flesh, in my opinion, does a perfectly good job of keeping you humble in itself without this additional messenger of Satan. My flesh is the messenger of Satan. So I don't know about you, but I don't need another messenger. Amen.